Alright, so, hey guys, this is like my third take by now, but who gives a fuck? Today I want to be talking about quitting, retrying, and experimenting with something else. And basically, this can be with anything, really. It can be with life as a whole, with like your career, your path, your job, your occupation. Where do you think you want to go because your mind changed? And this can be with whatever age that you're really in. Like, if you're in your 20s, don't worry about it. You're just overthinking shit. Like, your age is still ever so young with your world. But then if you're in your 30s, for example, and then it's like, yeah, I suppose shit should get serious by now. So, for me specifically, I wanted to be talking about video games as a whole. Not to do with both Blizzard, but I also wanted to be talking about Valve as well, surprisingly. And why is that exactly? And the reason is that, I've seen like a bunch of videos. I've seen one video where Asmagol talked about his opinion on where WoW is taking. I've seen videos on where people had quitted WoW for Final Fantasy 14, at least with Pint and Matt Season. I don't know where Matt Season is going, but I know he quit WoW. And I know Pint quit WoW for FF14. And I also saw another video of Funk basically doing the same thing, but in a different take, where he didn't quit TF2, but he misses the game on what it used to be in its legacy, like how World of Warcraft has WoW Classic. We want TF2 again, but maybe TF2 Classic. Who the fuck knows? But I think a TF2 Classic, even that game, will eventually just die out by a bunch of sniper bots that I've seen that wear nothing but the Gibbous hat and maybe the Pyrovision goggles. They have the default sniper rifle and then they aim up like this and they spin around like a fucking maniac. Yeah, it's not looking good for Team Fortress 2 when I quit the game for like 5 years from now, at best. And why is that? Why did I quit Team Fortress 2? And I'll tell you the reason why. It's because there's been such a lack of motivation for me to come back to Team Fortress 2 that I just said, fuck it. I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. The game had been so premium, and by the way, not all premium games are bad. I mean, like I said, um, we could say that premium games came all the way back to the PlayStation 1 and 2 era. It's just that they couldn't be online because internet really wasn't a thing back then, excuse me. Or that the technology wasn't as advanced, because I remembered that, when they had Tekken Dark Resurrection, Tekken 5 for PS2, online was there, but I didn't really understand how PS2 online would actually work, especially with like the internet that you had back then at 2004 must have been dog shit. But people still tried it out and maybe it worked for them. So I think, and I also wanted to be talking about this with spoilers as well, like the shit that people hate, not the ones that you put at the back of your car. But that'll be for a different video that's like less serious, maybe a bit more controversial because I might get dislike from that, I'm not gonna lie. But I want to talk about it anyway because I think it's an interesting take. But I'm not too sure if it's gonna be the same principle. But anyways, the whole point is that depending on what you do, whether it's a game or it's life as a whole, or in general, is the way and how you see it in terms of value. And that's the key word, value. How do you value what you're doing right now? So how do you value World of Warcraft? Right now, World of Warcraft is stale as fuck, especially for free-to-plays, because you do free-to-play for 2 weeks and you basically quit. You've already reached level 20, you got 1,000 gold, and you get 100 mounts and you're fucking done, like how I did. And I thought I would come back from Final Fantasy, but to be honest, I've never came back to WoW ever since. And at the same time, I do wanted to come back to Final Fantasy 14, but when I noticed that I basically had to make a new account just so that way I can get the specific thing that I wanted, just so that way I would have like a different name. I'm like, ah, fuck. Now, obviously, I could just come back to FF14, no problem, but it's like, because I wanted to have my own like hardcore roleplay idea, where it's like, okay, I have this guy and then I have this guy. And obviously, my guy can just be like whatever the fuck, right? But I also want this one, and this one. And I know I can be this one, this one, and this one. It's just the name change that I have specific. So I'm so specific that even the specific things have to be specific for me. Um, and that kind of killed my motivation into playing FF14. But I know one day I'll try again. Uh, I'm still planning to get Ann Walker one of these days. Don't worry about it, even though it hasn't come out yet, at least in this time. Excuse me. Apologies. And it really just depends on how you see your partake in your scenario. Do you think this job is wasting your fucking time? Yes or no? Do you think you're heading the right path? Or do you think you're just winging it like how I used to be with my life? And I would just say, wherever the fuck the road fork takes me. It all just comes down to eventually you as a whole and as your own world. You view your world as how you see it and not on how others see it. And it all comes down, like I said, with value. And, I'm like trying to process on what the fuck else I'm going to try and say without sounding too much of an idiot, but I think I'm still doing good so far. I guess it all just comes down to the way in how you want to have some extra closure, or the way in how you want to have like, an extra few steps in life, or you want to like move on from one corner to the next, which is again like what I'm trying to say with like quitting and like retrying. And I guess I could just go on with the bases, even though this should have been out for like 5 minutes ago, but here I am now, and I don't want to do another take. But like when it comes to quitting, it's because you have so much lack of motivation that you just stop. Retrying is like you still have some motivation, but you're considering whether or not if you want to quit or not. You're not too sure. It's like a maybe. So it's like, for example, how I am with Fortnite, and I'm borderline quitting. If the next season is shit for me, I'll just say fuck it, because the artifacts have been pissing me off, and I'm probably not gonna get the whole completion set. But there it is. And experimenting with something else would be again with closure. You want to like, obviously I should have done like another one like continue playing, but like everyone so far is continue playing right now. Continue playing is just that you have enough motivation to where you can still keep chugging along. You can still keep doing the same bullshit that you're doing right now, and you're still enjoying yourself, even if it's somewhat. Experimenting with something else is basically like the closure idea, where you want to try something new, so that way you can get something refreshing. And I think all three of these are like pretty important. All three of these are like pretty important, even though I think this is mirrored. If you're watching this, I'm not too sure, and I can't write this down mirrored, but whatever. It all really just boils down to how you want to continue your story. So, for example, with me, I'm considering whether or not if I want to quit Fortnite or not and move on to Apex, or maybe move on to something else. But it could also be like trying out new shit. Maybe instead of watching YouTube, I could be watching anime. And it's been so long since I've watched anime that I don't know what to start with. Now, obviously, I can just go start off with Digimon like it's normal. But then I'm also going to be like, now what? And I guess I could also be talking about another thing, which is burnout. And The reason why people burn out is because they refuse the quitting bit, and they just keep moving on and on and on. They just keep pushing forward as much as they can before they say, fuck it, I want a break. And it comes down to where they push the idea of moving on and on to a point where they're at the crisis stage of like in between quitting and retrying. So they're like over here, the borderline quitting. And I guess partially, yes, I would say Fortnite had burned me out with like me trying to collect nothing but the alien artifacts and doing nothing but the legendary quests and just collecting this whole entire fucking pile of like epic, rare, and like uncommon quests, even though the uncommon quests are like dailies. But I have like a giant scroll laundry list of like rare quests I need to do, and I also have like a smaller laundry list that's still pretty fucking long of like epic quests, and they'll all eventually give me to level 100 anyway. And I know if I'm gonna go to the next season, I feel like that's gonna be the exact same shit, but without the alien artifacts, because those really fucking pissed me off where I need to get two accounts. And my laptop is so fucking old that it's a 50-50 if it's gonna crash within 3 minutes or 30 minutes. And that's what pisses me off the most. If they made it so that way it was just a single player cosmic chest, but the cosmic chest was like the artifacts themselves could have been rarer, but it's single player, I would have been happy because I would have done that an entire week. I got all the artifacts, I'm done. I don't need to give a fuck anymore. Then I can take like a month or 2 months break of Fortnite, come back feeling refreshed for like the last 10 days. I do it and there it is. So, like I said, it all comes down to like how you see your take in what you're doing. If you have a job like I used to have with like, you know, working your ass off, but realistically you don't want to get yourself fired because you keep walking around for 6 hours straight and your boss nearly gets you foot fungi and your boss really doesn't give a fuck about you, you just quit. Why bother suffering? You know? Why bother continuing the exact same bullshit when realistically you're just there for the money? You quit and you move on to a new job. Like what I'm doing right now. And it all comes down to where you need to find yourself a balance between you do need to push yourself, yes, sure, but you also need to give yourself breaks. You also need to like actually chill the fuck out when it comes to like, trying to race from level 1 to level 50 with Final Fantasy 14. And I guess, for some people they can do it no problem, but for someone like me, I could do it no problem as well because I did it in 2 weeks, and here I am now talking about how I would assume that I even like burned out on FF14, but I know I can come back. Whereas with Fortnite, it's a different take where I only gave a fuck purely about the artifact, about the alien artifacts, and that's all I cared about. And you need 350 of them, but I calculated that it was going to be 270. And I'm like, ah, fuck, that means I actually need to make a second account if I want everything. And I want to see, like, if I can try something else within August. I want to try and see if I can talk about where I am so far with 2021 on somewhere in August. Maybe it's the first, maybe it's like somewhere in the middle. And I also want to be talking about spoilers, and I think it'll be a bit more fun and obviously a bit more controversial because I'm talking about fucking spoilers. But we'll see where we can go from there. At a 15-minute mark, so I can't talk anymore. See ya.